1. I was working at a big Italian chain at the time, not Olive Garden. I had recently transferred from a location that was smaller and filled with mostly wonderful, friendly guests, with the occasional exceptions. I didn't realize how lucky or unusual it was to have great caring managers who had your back and helped you keep improving in a positive manner. I was young and it was my first restaurant. My new location was bigger and had a lot more snobby assholes, Karens, etc. My new GM was kind enough to teach me how lazy, uncaring, and verbally abusive managers could be. I caught this useless motherfucker playing Xbox in the manager's office during the dinner rush one time. I don't know if he was related to someone in corporate, or if he just slept his way up to his life goal of manager of a mid-level chain restaurant. We'll call him Dick, because worthless giant douche nozzle is too long to say every time. I had one good manager who appreciated me and the work I did. He was the one redeeming boss I had, Red. I had a two-top of professional-looking men come in during the middle of the rush. They were both dressed in suits and somewhere in the 40 to 50 range. I rolled up to the table and introduced myself to Jamek, just another male asshole Karen, and Vin, and it seemed like it was going to be a great table. I was bringing my A-game. I was engaging and personal. My timing was on point. Their drinks were always full. I sold them wine, salads, appetizers, my favorite dishes, and dessert. When I double-checked everything was great after entrees, Jamek let me know it was perfect. A great tip looked like it was coming. As I dropped off the check, Vin reached for it, but Jamek took it from him and insisted, "It's my treat." He looked briefly at the bill, then asks to speak to my manager. "I'll go get him, Jamek. Is there some type of error on the bill that I need to correct?" "TX Giant Geek, I would like to speak to your manager." I nervously responded, "Yes, sir." Unfortunately, the only manager that was available was Dick. Him being on the floor means he probably got his ass whipped by a 13-year-old at Halo and rage quit again. Which means he was on the floor because nothing soothes his ego by lording his authority over us. Dick rolls up to the table and Jamek just goes off on me. "This is the worst dining experience I've ever had. TX Giant Geek was rude, our drinks were always empty, the food came out in the wrong order, it wasn't what I ordered, and it was cold. What kind of incompetent buffoons are you hiring, etc." Dick apologized and comped every item Jamek had, and promised I'll deal with TX Giant Geek. Jamek, of course, stiffed me. My table leaves, and Dick calls me into his office to quickly berate me, and lets me know he'll be writing me up at the end of my shift. I'm upset, but I get back to it because I still got tables. Now, it had been about 5 minutes since my table walked out, when I see Vin come back in and grab Rad, who was now free, and start talking to him. Then Red goes and grabs Dick to bring him in on the conversation. I don't hear any of the conversation other than Dick saying, as he rolled up before Vin started talking, "We apologize and TX Giant Geek will be severely disciplined." Fuck me, am I about to lose my job? I'm thinking. Vin leaves and Red grabs me to talk. I had just closed the last check on the last of my tables, so I had time. "Vin came back to talk about your service." I responded, "I'm so sorry, I don't see what I did wrong." He stops me. He didn't come in to complain, he came in to apologize. He said that he had no idea why his associate said all those things, but they weren't true. "You did an amazing job. Everything was great, and we're lucky to have an employee like you." He also left you $40 for your tip. My jaw dropped. "Also, you're not being written up." Dick never apologized, of course. But the look on his face in response to my giant smirk for the next month was enough. In the 10 years I was a server, never had anything like this happen before or since. Vin had to have been a server at some point. That's my guess why he came back. 2. So, I'm just wondering how y'all cope with a customer getting upset with you. I'm a very sensitive person, and let things get to me very easily. Of course, it's never out of nowhere, and I'm not 100% innocent. My first reaction to people being rude to me is that I immediately lose my patience and get defensive, not in an extreme way, but in a way where I don't come across as kind to the customer anymore. I'm aware of this and working on it, but I don't want to lose the part of me that refuses to be treated poorly. I work in a place where I have some freedom to not let customers walk all over me, plus 99% of people are super sweet. This happened yesterday. Dinner rush came out of nowhere, and we were getting multiple to-go orders over the phone, and multiple tables all at once. I'm having a bad day in general and just trying to hold it all together. It's just me and my coworker, who do all the front-of-house duties. One young lady, about 25, comes in and says it's just her, so I sat her at a two-top by the door and gave her a glass of water. I come back to her a few minutes later, and she says she has a friend joining her, like it was a demand, and she asks for a latte. I tell her we don't do espresso drinks, but we have drip coffee. She points to the menu and says, "It looks like your menu says cafe right here, but you don't serve coffee." Like it's my fault. So it began. I was not having it, and when I brought her coffee with cream and sugar, she asked what could be done with drip coffee, and I'm like, "What do you mean? Like cream and sugar?" "Yes." And she's like, "Where's my cream?" as she's on the phone with someone. So I held up the little jar of cream so her precious eyes could see it. Her friend, a regular, always coming in with a different girl, whatever, I don't judge, he's a nice dude, finally shows up, and I watch as they discuss amongst themselves to move tables without telling me, to a four-top. Whatever, doesn't actually matter. So he's at the new table and she's gathering all her belongings like a computer and things, and I go up to her and say, "Hey, just so you know, you need to let us know when you'd like to move tables, and we can make that arrangement for you." Then she snaps. She's had it with me. "Does it look like I'm doing anything? You work in customer service, and I'm a customer, so you do what I say. I'm going to move to that table, is that okay?" Not a question. I'm in shock. And the whole restaurant is watching this happen, and I say, "Yes, ma'am." While I walk away to figure out the next best move, she then storms up to me and demands to speak to a manager. I say there's not a manager on, and she laid into me again in front of another customer waiting for her to go. I said that I won't be serving her. I should have told her to leave, but never done that before, so it didn't come to mind until later. And she said I have to. I said I have the right to refuse service. She said she was going to stay and finish her coffee, and I said, okay. Anyways, two customers come up to me and gave me support after the fact. I got wonderful support from my coworker, but my body is still tense and my mind races about it. I question myself as a person and a server. It just really gets to me. So I'm asking for advice. Does anyone have an awesome mantra they say to themselves to get through times like this? Or a practice? 3. I recently read a post about a horrible manager, and it reminded me of one of my own experiences. This happened 20 years ago, but it still irks me to this day. I used to work at a bar and restaurant that was split into two distinct sides. One was a family-friendly restaurant, and the other was a bar side with pool tables, games, and karaoke, and trivia on certain nights. As you can imagine, it got pretty rowdy some nights. One night I was working with a new bartender, and we were slammed. A group of 7 guys, including a few regulars, was celebrating a bachelor party, or birthday, or something like that. They ordered a round of buttery nipples, butter shots and Baileys, from the new bartender who made the drinks and served them. The guys all toasted and took the shots and downed them. Immediately, several of them vomited the shots back up all over the bar top, and the remainder looked sick. I came over to see what happened, and one of the regulars said the shots tasted rancid. I asked the new bartender what happened, and she pulled out the bottles she had used. Peach schnapps and Baileys. That combination would make a lot of people sick. The peach schnapps was kept right next to the butter shots, so it was an accident, she just grabbed the wrong bottle. Anyways, the guys all felt sick, and they all just wanted to pay their tab and leave. Excluding the $60 worth of shots they had thrown up, of course. Unfortunately, only a manager could approve comps. I left the other bartender to stall, sent the bar back out to clean up the mess, and went for a manager. This is where Molly comes in. She was our new GM. The previous GM had been promoted to regional manager, and the only manager on duty at midnight. She was rarely on the floor, spending most of her time in the office talking to her boyfriend Sean on the phone. I went back to the office and knocked on the glass door. She waved me away dismissively. Knowing the guys and how bad they felt, I knocked more urgently. Again, the dismissive wave as she continued her conversation with her boyfriend. Finally, I pounded on the door and she opened it a crack. I tried to explain the issue, but she cut me off immediately. She said, "If I have to come out there, you'll regret it." At the time, I had bartended at this place for 3 years and was very popular with the customers, most of whom were regulars. But since Molly's arrival, I had been unhappy, so had found a new job. My plan was to work at both places, but I could survive with one job. I told her that no, she needs to come out and comp this check, that the guys just threw up all over the bar and I needed a manager. She tells me to solve it on my own and shuts the door in my face. I went back to the bar, where the guys were patiently waiting to pay, and did the only thing I could do. I split the shots they got sick from off their substantial bill and cashed out the rest of the bill. They pay and leave. They tip fairly. The night went on, and at the end of the night, Molly finally made an appearance. I prepped the drawer for her and showed her the check for the offending shots, expecting her to comp them. She told me I need to pay for them, since I chose to comp them without authorization. The other bartender jumped in to explain it was her error, but Molly wasn't interested in excuses. At this point, I was fed up. This night was the latest in a series of crazy things she'd done, including straining gnats from liquor bottles when she thought no one was around. She told me to pay for it or I was fired. She didn't know I had a new job. I said, "Fire me if you must." She did. I took my unemployment check until the new job started. It was bartending at a new restaurant that opened 2 weeks later, and that should have been the end. But 4 months later, Molly was fired after sales tanked because she upset the regulars, and I was offered my job back. The new GM begged me, saying regulars and staff were asking for me to return. I agreed to 1 night a week, since I was now head bartender at the new restaurant. I did work 1 night a week for several months at my old job, making great money, and only left because I moved away from the area to take a promotion with my new company. Molly was never heard from again, and those nasty shots were a running joke with the group of regulars. 4. Today I had a table of 4 middle-aged women. All was okay at the start. They were being quite vulgar with their conversation, but I'm not going to be the one policing what they want to talk about. 3 of them are drinking white wine. The other is partial to a good Aperol, as she said. For those who don't know, Aperols are a cocktail including Aperol liquor, Prosecco, and soda water. It's also important to know that when making them, you fill the glass almost to the top with ice. Also important, it is Easter Monday today, and where I am from, that automatically means a 15% surcharge is applied to the total bill. When her first Aperol came to the table, she didn't say anything to the staff, but I overheard her telling her friends there was far too much ice in her drink. I watched the bartenders make it. There was the perfect amount of ice for how an Aperol should be made. She drank it anyway and ordered another, but I made sure to add on the ticket, "less ice," even though she didn't ask me to. She finished that as well and didn't say anything about the amount of ice this time either. They stayed for about 2.5 hours and racked up a $300 bill, including the public holiday surcharge. They asked to split the bill by item, which was fine. Aperol lady went last. When it was her turn, she smiled the biggest, fakest grin and said to me, "Hi, sweetie. I would appreciate it if you would remove the surcharge for one of my Aperol spritz. There was too much ice, and I think 15% is an appropriate amount to take off, considering how diluted my drink was." I smiled at her and told her I would be right back. I would just have to speak with my manager. She replied, "Yes, sweetie, you go do that." So I went off, explained the situation to my manager, who slammed her head into her hands and told me that was ridiculous and she would rather die before doing that. But to check with the owner first because he is friends with this woman. So off I go again, explained to the owner, who did not look very pleased about it. It told me to take the entire Aperol Spritz, about $20 off the bill. Internally, I was screaming. I did not want to give this woman what she wanted, and I was made to look like an idiot who didn't know what they were doing. But I put on a brave face and went back over and told her we would take the drink off the bill for her. She smiled at me and said, "Now see, that wasn't too hard, was it? Thank you, sweetie. Let your bartenders know there's some good Aperol Spritz making tutorials on YouTube." And they left. No tip, of course. How did you guys' Easter weekend pan out? 5. I'm a hard worker, outgoing, and literally enjoy my job most days. I love helping customers make memories with friends and family. I get a lot of positive feedback, etc. I take it very seriously to give each table the absolute best service I can. I'm only human though, and the other day I had multiple demanding tables, was bartending, and had an hour to set up for a 160-person event at my 2-level indoor-outdoor restaurant. I was swamped, and it took me a while to get the second glass of wine for a table that had been waving me down and giving me attitude from the second their butts hit the seat. At the end of the meal, they told me that I gave terrible service. I was friendly and got their order and drinks within 3 minutes of them sitting down. Absent entrees, everything was great. I checked on them and they ordered another glass of wine. Because I'm bartending, have multiple tables all over the place, and am setting up for the biggest event I've ever worked, it did take me about 6 minutes to bring second glass. I had already been crying that morning and just feeling raw, and it just hurt that I try so hard and people have crazy expectations. Normally I apologize and let it go, but my eyes swelled up with tears and I said, "I'm sorry, I'm filling multiple job roles tonight. I'm running around like a maniac and doing my very best. What do you think I'm doing? Sitting and texting? I'm sorry it took a few moments to get a wine refill, but I'm really trying. I'll remove all the wine from your bill. I'm sorry we were unable to meet your standards." Anyway, they were actually apologetic because I think they could see I was breaking down a bit. I comped all their wine, and it was whatever. Then I had 2 stuck-up bitches who kept giving instructions to our staff that don't speak English and taking it out on me. They sent back their oysters without touching them and complained about everything. We always have very fresh, high-quality seafood, so it's pretty rare to get that reaction. I did my best to remedy the situation, and I thought all was well, but I just saw they left a 1-star review. I've been in this industry for 17 years. I can take a lot of abuse. But it's a double-edged sword caring so much about what customers think. I feel so happy when everyone is content and everything goes great. But these impossible customers really get to me sometimes. Sorry for the vent. It's just 4 a.m. and now I'm replaying everything over in my head. What I could have done differently. And why are people so quick to try and sink a small business with 1-star reviews? Our reviews are 80% 5-star, so it's not going to really affect us, but it just bothers me on principle. I love the money of fine dining and most customers are really friendly and kind, but we do occasionally get these rich psychopath types. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 207. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, I would appreciate it if you hit the like button. It is helpful to me and, well, mostly just me, but please do it anyway. Okay, anyway, let's see. I don't think there's any other business. I don't believe we have any shout-outs today. So we'll move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: do you drink hot drinks all the year round, Or are you like me, where you only drink the hot drinks in winter, and when summertime comes you crave cold, or in my case very cold with lots of ice in them, drinks in the hotter weather? Usually up till your teeth start chattering again, and then you realize maybe it's too cold. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.